Welcome back to The Useless Show, where useless facts are secretly useful. Today we stitch together two of our most requested videos into 404 rapid-fire facts. Ready? Hit like to boost the signal, and let's start at fact 1.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
In 2003, the U.S. experienced the largest blackout in its history because of untrimmed trees in Ohio. Seriously, branches brushed a power line, and a chain reaction knocked out power in 8 states and parts of Canada. Who knew botched landscaping could paralyze half a continent? Mexico celebrates its Independence Day with an all-night party, but the actual battle for independence didn't even end that day. The president shouts, El Grito, from a balcony while ringing a massive bell, reenacting a priest's yell from 1810. In 2009, Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad's speech triggered a massive walkout when he accused Israel of being a racist regime and denied the Holocaust. Delegates from over 30 countries left the room, many in visible protest. In Turkmenistan, Independence Day is a mix of military parades and horse beauty contests. Yes, actual competitions where Ahal Teke horses are judged for their elegance, mane fluffiness, and royal strut. The celebrations include synchronized dancing, golden statues, and a level of national horse worship that makes you wonder if the horses secretly run the country. Habanero peppers, often mistaken for the mild-mannered cousin of fiery peppers, are like that friend who offers you a small taste of their spice and then, casually, watches as you're engulfed in flames. It's got a kick, and it's not afraid to remind you that mild was just an illusion. In 2014, a group of engineers created a flashlight powered entirely by body heat. You just held it, and your hand's warmth would charge it using thermoelectric materials. People with cold hands got no light and a lot of existential doubt. In 1960, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev allegedly banged his shoe on the desk during a UN session to interrupt a speech critical of the USSR. While the shoe-slamming moment is debated, the chaos it caused wasn't. Khrushchev reportedly screamed, waved his shoe, and shattered all chill, turning the session into an international toddler tantrum. In Soi Tien Theme Park, Vietnam, everything is Buddha-themed, but not in a peaceful monastery way. You'll find roller coasters shooting through dragon statues, giant stone Buddhas with water slides coming out of their chests, and a crocodile farm where kids can feed meat to hundreds of hungry reptiles. There's a bacon-flavored energy drink that proudly tastes like someone blended pork fat into battery acid. Marketed toward hardcore gamers and truckers who want meat with their caffeine, it's basically liquid regret in a can. It smells like a diner floor at 3 a.m. and leaves your breath somewhere between sizzling and suspicious. Ancient Romans had a sewer goddess named Cloatina because apparently nothing says spiritual devotion like building a shrine to holy poop canals. They believed clean sewers were sacred, so yes, people literally prayed for smooth flushing and divine drainage. One of the weirdest failed light inventions came in the form of edible glow sticks made from bioluminescent jellyfish protein. Designed as emergency rations and lighting in one, they were squishy, slightly glowing snacks with the texture of regret. In South Africa, the Pantsula dance emerged from the townships during apartheid as a form of rebellion and social commentary. Think of it as angry tap dancing on steroids. Eating raw or undercooked meat can give you tapeworms, creepy flat freeloaders that set up Airbnb in your intestines and can grow up to 25 feet long. You could literally be digesting a steak while a worm in your gut is digesting your digestion like a gross parasitic roommate. Kids randomly break down at every mild inconvenience because their tiny brains are not capable of processing logic. A kid once threw themselves on the ground, screaming and kicking, because they couldn't fit into a shoe that was 3 sizes too small on purpose. Some non-veg eaters get something called meat sweats, a real, scientifically noted phenomenon where you eat so much protein that your body starts sweating like it's in a gym commercial. It's like your internal furnace hits overdrive, and suddenly your dinner turns into a cardio session without the actual movement. Just beef-induced perspiration. Hardcore carnivores can sometimes develop gout, a condition so old school it was once called the rich man's disease because only kings ate that much meat. The result? Painful joints and the privilege of limping like royalty. One child lost their mind because the moon wouldn't follow them into the house. When their parent closed the door, the toddler cried, like they'd left a friend behind in space jail. Trying to teach a toddler about orbital mechanics while they sob for the moon is both hilariously futile and completely developmentally normal. The ginger beer mojito is the most confusing creation. Basically a mojito without the rum, but with ginger beer thrown in for, I don't know, spicy enthusiasm? In medieval Europe, you could get a degree in narrating the Bible. Seriously. The University of Paris in the 12th century offered degrees in holy narration, where students basically learned how to recite scripture in a dramatic way. It was like a mix between a religious lecture and a performance art show, except no one was asking for a standing ovation. Just a lot of amenes. In 1930, Robert Kronfeld set a world record for altitude by flying his glider up to 16,000 feet, without an engine. His glider was a fabric and wood contraption that looked like it belonged in a kid's toy box. Meanwhile, the dude was essentially gliding into the stratosphere like it was a casual Sunday afternoon. The birth of chemical batteries is rooted in an 18th century frog leg fiasco. In 1780, Luigi Galvani noticed that a dead frog's legs twitched when touched by metal, which he thought proved animals had electricity in them. Spoiler, they didn't. Alessandro Volta disagreed. Volta basically invented portable electricity because of a disagreement over electro-frogs. The weird origin of electrical appliances begins with the Victorian obsession with novelty and mildly dangerous experiments. Early toasters, for example, had no timers and were more like mini electric crematoriums for bread. Burnt offerings were common. A toddler's brain can decide to ring alarms at the most normal things. One toddler once had a complete emotional breakdown because their shadow kept following them. They tried to outrun it, stomp on it, even yell at it to go away. None of which worked, obviously. Turns out this paranoia about inescapable shapes is developmentally normal in the me versus the universe phase. Parasitic barnacles grow inside crabs and hijack their bodies. One species turns the crab into a full-time babysitter, even sterilizing the host so it stops worrying about its own kids and raises barnacle babies instead. Crabs start grooming invisible eggs. That's less growth, more psychological hijacking with a side of horror movie. Certain flatworms skip all that grow gradually nonsense and just clone themselves by splitting in half. No big deal. One day you're a worm, the next day you're two. The original doesn't even die. It's just now got a weird sibling made from its butt half. The Lockheed U-2 spy plane is such a diva that landing it is harder than convincing a cat to take a bath. Its absurdly long wingspan causes it to bounce, veer, and dance dramatically unless chased by another car, telling the pilot how low they are. It refuses to land without an audience. In 2017, a raccoon in Seattle got into a substation and knocked out power for over 38,000 people. It was dubbed Raccoon-ageddon. The furry vandal survived, became an urban legend, and possibly founded a trash panda revolution. It remains the only blackout blamed on a raccoon with excellent climbing skills and terrible judgment. A man in Norway received his PhD for researching how people walk in the snow. He categorized walking types, measured footsteps, and filmed people slipping on ice. Basically, he became the academic version of a slapstick cameraman and convinced a university it was science, not just seasonal comedy. A Canadian researcher studied how to win a rock-paper-scissors game, diving into psychological warfare over paper cuts. He studied over 300 matches, classified player behavior, and discovered that humans are hilariously predictable with scissors. Some lovebirds act like their relationship is some sort of exclusive VIP club. If you're not in, it's all, we're special. You wouldn't understand. Spoiler alert. You're not the first couple to exchange matching sweatshirts and eat pizza on Saturday nights. It's called normal life, not a secret society. In the 17th century, Isaac Newton and Robert Hooke had a legendary feud. Newton had a secret, unpublished manuscript that Hooke accused him of plagiarizing. In retaliation, Newton erased Hooke's name from the history of science so thoroughly that Hooke's contributions to physics went largely unrecognized for centuries. Newton basically gave Hooke the silent treatment by rewriting history. Merdeka 118 is a building in Malaysia, still under construction, that has a shape that resembles a giant can opener or a futuristic space-age axe. It was supposed to symbolize the country's development, But instead, it's raised eyebrows globally for looking more like a sci-fi villain's weapon than a symbol of progress. There's the Louisiana Superdome in New Orleans. Not the actual Superdome's functionality that's questioned, but the fact that it's a dome that's, well, kinda pointless. It sits in a city prone to hurricanes and floods. If you're going to build a massive dome in a flood zone, maybe add a boat ramp. The Kuching cat statue in Malaysia, standing at 12 meters tall, represents a cat in a city named after them. While it's an amusing tribute, it's arguably one of the least useful monuments ever. It doesn't serve any purpose except to confuse tourists and local cats who apparently have no idea why they're being honored. A kid in Ohio thought it would be hilarious to toss his jacket into the washer with a bunch of coins in the pockets. Not only did the coins do their best impression of a percussion band, but some escaped and got stuck in the machine's inner workings. A $3.5 disaster. In the desert, when you're low on water, one weird tactic is to lick the moisture from cactus spines. Yeah, not exactly what you'd call gourmet, but the spines can provide some hydration in desperate times. Just make sure you're not confusing it with a spiny kind of cactus, which could leave you looking like a porcupine. One bizarre desert survival tactic involves covering your body in ash or dirt. While it sounds like you're dressing up for Halloween, it's actually a smart way to keep cool. The grime blocks the sun's rays, acting as a protective layer. So forget sunscreen, just roll around in some desert dust. Another odd tactic, wear a damp cloth on your head. In the scorching heat, you might think water would evaporate quickly, but a damp cloth traps moisture and cools your head. It's basically the desert's version of wearing a hat that's also secretly a mini air conditioner. Who needs air conditioning when you can improvise? In South Korea, a kimchi-flavored energy drink once hit shelves and managed to taste exactly like you'd imagine. Fermented cabbage mixed with sugar and spice, then shocked with caffeine. The result was like sipping spicy pickle juice in a rave. Reviews ranged from boldly disgusting to accidentally finished the whole thing. If you ever find yourself stuck in the desert without food, don't panic. Eat some insects. While it may sound like a bug lover's dream, desert-dwelling insects are packed with protein and often have high moisture content. They might taste like dirt, but at least you'll survive long enough to find a proper meal. In 2012, a technician in India pressed the wrong button, which led to a 20-state power outage affecting over 600 million people. That's nearly 10% of Earth's population knocked offline because someone had a case of curious finger syndrome. The grid folded like a cheap lawn chair, and the dude probably got demoted to flashlight duty. Some planes absolutely refuse to cooperate with gravity, like the infamous Boeing 737 rudder issue in the 90s. These aircraft would occasionally just decide to turn by themselves mid-flight without pilot input, as if possessed by a sassy wind spirit that just wanted to spice up your commute with death spirals. And here's the weirdest of all survival tactics: building a shelter using nothing but your own shadow. In dire situations, you can use your body to create shade and avoid the sun's deadly rays. It's like becoming your own personal parasol. Sure, you're technically just standing there doing nothing, but hey, it works. In Switzerland, they celebrate a win with a cow parade. If you win something big, expect cows dressed in fancy ribbons and bells to be paraded through the streets. Because who doesn't want to celebrate their victory by being followed around by an entourage of fashion-forward cows? In Fiji, one bizarre celebratory custom is the giving of a whale tooth. Yep, a literal whale tooth is exchanged as a mark of respect and honor after achievements. You've worked hard for that promotion and someone hands you a whale tooth. It's like a trophy, but from the ocean. In the Philippines, the strange tradition involves jumping at midnight on New Year's Eve to grow taller. While not directly tied to congratulations, it's a celebratory weirdness that requires you to jump around wildly as a good luck charm. It's like celebrating the new year by trying to defy gravity. In parts of Sudan, goat herders rub ash on themselves and their goats not for hygiene, but to mask scent from predators. So they walk around smelling like a barbecue pit, hoping hyenas will go, "Nah, that's just a burnt tree." It's survival via smoke and some very questionable cologne choices. In rural Greece, some herders train their goats to come only when they play a specific tune on a flute. These aren't just goats. They're musical snobs. If the herder plays the wrong song, the goats literally ignore him like entitled divas, refusing to go on stage unless the vibe is right. In parts of rural India and Pakistan, some folks believe sneezing before a journey is straight up bad luck, but only if it's a single sneeze. 2 sneezes? Totally fine. So, if someone lets out 1 sneeze, they'll sit back down, sip tea, wait a bit, and try again, like their sinuses need divine approval for movement. In certain Punjabi weddings, sisters-in-law steal the groom's shoes mid-ceremony and demand money for their return. It's basically organized bridal party ransom with a touch of criminal flair. In Japan, winning in sports is sometimes celebrated by throwing cakes and fish into the crowd. It's a mess, but a delicious one. Nothing says congratulations like a soft, fluffy cake being hurled at your face, or a fish, depending on the sports team's mood. It's a fishy, sugary victory explosion. In Japan, after a baby is born, a traditional ceremony called Shichigo-san takes place when the child turns 3, 5, or 7. While it's a lovely family celebration, it includes dressing up the baby in formal attire and walking through crowds, reminding everyone that yes, this child is extremely special. In the Netherlands, babies are sometimes wrapped tightly in dekens, thick blankets, to ensure they grow up strong. It's so intense, it looks like you're preparing them for an extreme winter even though they're only born in the spring. Talk about a cozy, possibly too tight future. In Morocco, newborns are often given a henna tattoo. It's not about style, but protection from evil spirits. Apparently, a baby with a little henna design on their hand has a higher chance of keeping those mischievous spirits away. A tiny mystical bodyguard in the form of body art. In India, there is a custom called Nazar, where the newborn is shielded from the evil eye by a black dot placed on their forehead. It's basically a tiny, bold fashion statement and a way to protect the little one from any harmful gaze. So forget baby on board. Now it's baby protected from bad vibes. One PhD was given for a thesis on the perceived personality of cheese. The researcher surveyed people on what traits they assigned to cheeses. Apparently, brie is sexy, cheddar is dependable, and blue cheese is the weird uncle at the dairy reunion. In the world of love, there's this ridiculous belief that ignoring problems will make them go away. Like, if you just sweep everything under the rug, the dust bunnies will suddenly organize themselves into a cute love poem. Newsflash, you're not avoiding issues, you're just creating an emotional junkyard. Jamaicans have a dish called Manish water, which sounds innocent until you realize it's goat head soup, with everything from the brain to the testicles, tossed in like culinary confetti. It's considered an aphrodisiac, which means someone looked at a steaming bowl of goat face and said, yes, this will get me laid. Howard Hughes, the eccentric billionaire, had so many burial rumors that people thought he was entombed in a custom-made cryogenic pod to be resurrected when humans evolved into less annoying creatures. In reality, he was buried in a standard grave, but conspiracy theorists still believe he's chilling somewhere in a billionaire freezer with Walt Disney. There's a traditional treat called cow cod soup, made from, you guessed it, the bull's penis. It's stewed like it's a normal thing, and Jamaicans swear it boosts male stamina. Imagine sipping a spicy broth, then realizing the chewy bit you're gnawing is a boiled bovine noodle of love. In Nigeria, newborns are sometimes given a custom to face the door. If a child is born facing the door, it is believed they will become a wanderer or will not settle in one place. Newborns might have their cradles rearranged just to avoid future globe-trotting tendencies. In the 1930s, Virginia Hall, an American spy during World War II, played a crucial role in sabotaging Nazi forces. Despite having a prosthetic leg, which she named Cuthbert, Hall was known for her epic ability to move undetected across enemy lines. In the 16th century, Jean Beret was the first woman to circumnavigate the globe, but she did so disguised as a man. She joined a French expedition as a botanist, and no one knew her secret until the journey was almost over. It's like the ultimate woman's got game move in the world of exploration. In 1620, the Pilgrims sailed to America to establish a colony, only to have their first encounter with Native Americans derailed by a mistranslation. When they tried to say, "We come in peace," the translator accidentally conveyed that they were, in fact, planning to conquer. The Native Americans, understandably, didn't throw a welcome party. In some West African tribes, dancers wear elaborate masks that supposedly summon ancestral spirits. Basically, it's less "let's groove tonight" and more "hey, grandma's ghost, wanna jam?" These dances aren't just moves, they're full-blown spiritual FaceTime calls with the dead. During the Korean War, U.S. soldiers would use loudspeakers to broadcast messages of peace. However, one message meant to say, "We want peace with North Korea," was misheard and came out as, "We want peace with North Korean leaders who eat dirty." Guess they weren't the best at peace talks. Thailand's Songkran Festival celebrates the new year by turning the entire country into a water fight arena. Tourists and locals, mostly energetic youth, go full combat mode with buckets, water guns, and hoses. The spiritual cleansing part gets completely overshadowed by drenched chaos and unprovoked splash attacks from grannies with garden hoses. It's war, with squirt guns. In a twist of historical absurdity, Nazi scientists feared typhus so much they restricted trains full of infected prisoners from entering death camps. This accidentally saved lives, as some transports were rerouted or delayed long enough for liberation. The only thing worse than a war crime is a war crime foiled by your own germophobia. In Zimbabwe, it's illegal to store more than 200 liters of fuel at home, unless you register as a bulk fuel user. So if you're hoarding gas for your apocalypse bunker, better do it with paperwork. Otherwise, you're not a prepper. You're an unlicensed gas goblin breaking the law with your fiery pantry of doom. In Nigeria, people have smuggled fuel across borders using plastic jerry cans disguised as yams. Yes, yam-shaped fuel containers. Why? Because fuel is subsidized at home and expensive across borders. So while the rest of the world eats their carbs, Nigerians are stuffing fake vegetables with gasoline, like it's black market Thanksgiving. In India, there's a law that makes it illegal to fill your fuel tank after it's been declared full by the nozzle auto stop. Why? Because you're technically tampering with calibrated weights and measures. So that extra squirt you begged the guy to add, you could be accidentally committing a micro-level fuel felony. The Nazis once deported a group of Jews from Norway to Auschwitz, but forgot to register them properly. As a result, the system lost track of them, and some escaped through bureaucratic oblivion. The same regime that micromanaged genocide down to train schedules couldn't keep its Excel sheet straight. Hitler lost to paperwork. Love makes people think they're psychic. They expect their partner to understand their unspoken needs, like when you want your fries without anyone asking. People in love start believing mind reading is a relationship superpower. In reality, the only superpower you both have is the ability to avoid talking about laundry. In Japan, eyeball licking became a micro-trend among edgy teens who thought licking someone's cornea was peak intimacy. It wasn't a fashion accessory, but was treated like one, like how wearing braces used to be cool. The only thing it really accomplished was a wave of pink eye outbreaks and a complete loss of faith in flirting. In 2020, inflatable latex trousers made headlines. Designed to puff out like Michelin Man's emo cousin, they were supposed to be a revolutionary silhouette. Instead, they made wearers look like they were being attacked by pool toys. You couldn't sit, walk normally, or survive a stiff breeze. Perfect for people who hate practicality and love dramatic entrances. In Belarus, their Independence Day doesn't even mark independence. It celebrates the Soviet Red Army's liberation of Minsk from Nazi Germany. Basically, they're commemorating switching one occupier for another, complete with tanks, Soviet anthems, and fireworks that scream awkward historical symbolism. It's like throwing a birthday party for your stepdad and calling it your own. The Concorde was basically a supermodel with attitude. Too hot, too fast, and too high maintenance. Its nose had to bend down just to see the runway, and it refused to fly economically, guzzling fuel like a frat bro with an energy drink addiction. Eventually, it was grounded by its own extraness. In Germany, a man tried to avoid a red light ticket by switching seats with his dog. He got pulled over and confidently pointed to his Labrador like, "It was him, officer." The police weren't buying it, mainly because the dog looked like it had just learned it was part of a felony. The man was fined, and the dog received emotional damage. Some pigments hate each other so much that they chemically rebel when mixed. Ultramarine blue and cadmium orange, total diva fight. They separate like oil and water, creating a lumpy paste that looks like a grumpy cat coughed it up. If you mix every color together, you don't get a magical super hue. You get the color of used mop water at a gas station restroom. It's called color mud and is banned from Polite Painting Society. Only chaotic neutral artists summon it deliberately, usually while cackling in a beret under a full moon. The Hoatzin chick of the Amazon has claws on its wings, yes, like a budget dinosaur trying cosplay. These little jungle goths use them to climb trees because their feet are too weak for anything else. Evolution was clearly in a mood that day and just said, screw it, give the bird velociraptor hands. One limited edition energy drink released in Russia claimed to be fresh bread flavored. It mimicked the taste of dark rye bread soaked in soda water with a hint of yeast. Drinking it was like chugging bakery runoff, foamy, weirdly malty, and leaving you unsure if you're energized or just fermenting from the inside. The camel's foot is basically a squishy pancake made of fat and cartilage that expands like a fleshy snowshoe. It lets them glide across the desert like they're moonwalking over sand dunes. Instead of sinking like a tourist in flip-flops, they stomp like they own the Sahara with feet built like squashed croissants. In Alaska, springtime brings a horrifying invasion called mosquito season, where clouds of bloodthirsty mosquitoes swarm with the aggression of unpaid interns. Locals wear netting like apocalyptic beekeepers just to get the mail. It's less of a seasonal change and more of a Game of Thrones level siege by nature's most annoying warriors. During spring, some people develop reverse seasonal depression and get sad because there's too much sunlight and happiness. Their brains basically say, nope, we like the darkness, bring back the gloom. While everyone else is frolicking in flowers, these folks are moodier than a goth locked in a greenhouse. In the dead of winter, the human bladder gets a seasonal personality shift known as cold diuresis. Your body goes, it's cold, so let's flush all our fluids immediately. You end up peeing like a racehorse every 10 minutes. It's your kidneys going full panic mode because they think you're about to freeze and need to ditch excess fluids like a bad habit. During fall, some people's hair starts shedding like they're prepping for molting season. It's a real phenomenon called seasonal telogen effluvium, and it turns your shower drain into a tribute to a werewolf's bad hair day. Meanwhile, squirrels are fluffing up for winter, and humans are just balding in solidarity. The Big Dig in Boston was so complicated that it needed custom-made tunnel jacking machines that could carefully shove highway-sized tunnels under existing city infrastructure without making the city collapse like a soggy lasagna. They built machines so delicate and precise, they were like giant dental tools, but for cities with trust issues. Japan's Toilet Bowl Park, officially known as the Toilet Museum in Kitakyushu, is a porcelain paradise celebrating the history and art of using the loo. The Gotthard Base Tunnel in Switzerland, the world's longest railway tunnel, needed rock-eating giants called TBMs or tunnel boring machines that weighed over 3,000 tons. The engineers had to invent systems that could chew through the Alps without cracking them like an angry baguette. Think of it as Earth dental surgery, done with extreme Swiss precision. Shanghai Tower, the world's second tallest building, had to be built on unstable swampy land. So, engineers invented a mega foundation drilling system that went deeper than a teenage existential crisis. They had to create machinery that could dig down 300 feet and pour concrete in a way that wouldn't make the building lean like a confused Pisa wannabe. In North Carolina, a law was once proposed banning people from predicting sea level rise using scientific data. Yup, right-wing legislators basically tried to make climate change illegal by legislating science out of existence. It's like yelling at the ocean to stop being wet and expecting it to comply out of sheer patriotism. In Oklahoma, a bizarre right-wing push led to the state banning Sharia law, despite zero evidence of anyone trying to implement it there. It's like putting up "No unicorns allowed" signs in your driveway and then bragging you've successfully defended your home from mythical creatures. In Alabama, it was once illegal to sell toys because right-wing lawmakers deemed them obscene. Meanwhile, buying a dozen assault rifles in a Walmart parking lot was completely fine. Apparently, pleasure equals immoral, but projectiles equals patriotic. PTSD messes with the prefrontal cortex, the brain's calm voice of reason, like it's on vacation during a crisis. Normally it says, relax, that's just thunder. With PTSD, it throws its hands up and lets the amygdala take the wheel. The result, fight or flight over a loud sneeze or a dropped spoon. Your brain's reward system gets short-circuited, making it nearly impossible to feel joy. That chocolate cake? Tastes like cardboard guilt. Puppies? Nope. Still emotionally numb. It's like your dopamine got evicted and the landlord replaced it with existential dread. Fun becomes a foreign language your brain refuses to translate. PTSD can cause something called hypervigilance, where your brain starts monitoring everything like it's running airport security. You become a living threat detector, flinching at shadows and memorizing exit signs like you're about to rob the place. Your nervous system's basically Red Alert 5.0, forever buffering, never relaxing. One of the most twisted things Alzheimer's does is create sundowning, where a person becomes more confused, agitated, or downright wild as the sun goes down. It's like their brain clock turns into a gremlin after dark. In a bizarre twist, some late-stage Alzheimer's patients develop mirror image syndrome, where they think their reflection is a stranger. They might try to greet, argue with, or even prepare food for their mirror twin, believing there's a lost soul trapped in the bathroom. Alzheimer's doesn't just erase memory, it turns reality into an avant-garde horror film. The gecko's foot is covered in millions of microscopic hairs called setae, which allow it to climb walls and ceilings like Spider-Man on Red Bull. These tiny hairs exploit quantum forces to stick to surfaces, meaning your average gecko could casually moonwalk across glass like it's a fashion runway for reptiles. In ancient times, some universities offered degrees for studying the foolish sciences, where students explored things like understanding madness and how it was perceived in society. Basically, it was a weird combo of philosophy, psychology, and superstition, where they assumed people who acted bizarrely must have some hidden knowledge, like they were enlightened by their own chaos. In 1921, a British family thought their house was haunted by the ghost of a Victorian woman who wept in the hallway every night. Turns out, it was just a neighbor's gramophone playing opera through the thin walls. The ghostly sobs were actually a poorly tuned soprano murdering Puccini. The haunting stopped once she hit a lower note. A man in California called the cops in 2011 after seeing a pale figure float outside his window every night at 3 a.m. The ghost turned out to be a tattered bedsheet caught on a power line that flapped dramatically whenever the wind blew. In 2015, a family in Mexico believed a spirit was flickering their lights and moving objects. They set up a camera and caught the spirit in action. Turns out, their cat had learned to flip the light switch with its paw and was moonlighting as a chaotic gremlin. The only haunting present was from pure feline disrespect. The construction of the Channel Tunnel between England and France forced engineers to invent massive tunnel-boring machines that looked like mechanical worms on steroids. They were so huge that they had their own climate systems. Without them, the only way to dig under the sea would have been hiring thousands of moles with union wages and tiny hard hats. Dubai's Palm Jumeirah, a man-made island shaped like a palm tree, needed machines that could literally vomit sand with GPS accuracy. Engineers had to create high-precision dredgers that blasted sand and rocks into perfect formations from miles away. Basically, they invented mechanical dragons that spat out land like Lego pieces for billionaires. In Arizona, right-wing legislators once debated a law that would let doctors lie to pregnant women about fetal abnormalities if the truth might lead to an abortion. Basically, legalized medical gaslighting, because nothing screams family values like withholding critical info from a woman during pregnancy in the name of ideology. In Hong Kong, a real estate tycoon demanded to be buried in a mountain cave with a feng shui water fountain powered by solar panels. The system required technicians to maintain it even after his death. With exploding head syndrome, some individuals wake up to the sound of a loud, thunderous explosion in their head, like someone set off a firecracker inside their skull. No actual explosion. No fireworks. Just a brain loudly pretending it's the 4th of July every time it drifts to sleep or wakes up. In the rare disorder, foreign accent syndrome, people wake up speaking in an accent that's not theirs. Suddenly, a mild-mannered British person is chatting with a thick French accent, and no one can explain why. It's as if the brain accidentally swapped language settings and chose random. One moment, you're sipping tea, and the next, you're pretending to be an Irish tourist. Cotard's syndrome makes people believe they are dead. Not metaphorically, like, I feel like a zombie, but literally. They think they've been wiped off existence and are walking ghosts. In hypertrichosis, also known as werewolf syndrome, people can grow excessive hair all over their bodies, including their faces, in patterns that would make Sasquatch jealous. It's not just a full beard, it's a werewolf transformation on a bad hair day. Imagine walking into a room and hearing a gasp as someone mistakes you for a fantasy creature from a medieval myth. The Billy the Big Mouth bass singing fish made millions by horrifying people with its robotic warbling of "Don't worry, be happy." It's a plastic fish that moves like it's possessed and lives solely to disturb. It was originally just a gag gift, then boom. America made it a national living room cryptid. A woman made millions selling used makeup bags. Not the makeup, just the stained, crusty bags. She marketed them as vintage beauty nostalgia, and Gen Z fell for it like they discovered a sacred artifact. Proof that with the right aesthetic, even a lipstick-smudged pouch can fund your retirement. The Snuggie, aka the backwards robe, was pitched like a cult uniform for couch potatoes. People laughed until millions were wrapped in polyester fleece, sipping tea like burrito monks. It made over $500 million. Kazakhstan's Independence Day includes eagle hunting competitions where majestic birds swoop down to snatch fake prey from horseback riders dressed like warrior princes. It's more Hunger Games than civic celebration, with bonus cultural cosplay. Also included yurts, fermented horse milk, and elders reciting poetry about the glory of being not Russian. There's a place in Iceland where you can literally walk between two tectonic plates, the Eurasian and North American ones, like some geologic version of Moses parting the Red Sea. It's called Thingvellir, and the plates are pulling apart so dramatically that Iceland is essentially doing the tectonic splits. Mother Earth is out here doing yoga while spewing lava. In the Himalayas, the Indian plate is smashing into the Eurasian plate like a geological bar fight that's been going on for 50 million years. The result? Mount Everest, the world's most dramatic "I'm taller than you" flex. The plates are still moving, meaning Everest is technically growing. So yes, the mountain has puberty. Electric irons were basically metal slabs you plugged into walls, and early vacuum cleaners were so big they were mounted on horse-drawn carts and served entire neighborhoods. It was the Wild West of household innovation, shockingly inefficient and bizarrely thrilling. The Mariana Trench, created by subduction between the Pacific and Philippine plates, is so deep you could drop Mount Everest into it and still have a mile of water left. It's the Earth's gloomy basement where pressure crushes things like it's holding a grudge. It's basically the goth corner of the ocean floor. The San Andreas Fault in California is a literal breakup line where the Pacific and North American plates are sliding past each other sideways. They're grinding past each other like an awkward Tinder date with tectonic baggage. Every shifty little move brings an earthquake and reminds LA that the ground is not emotionally stable. The Afar Triangle in East Africa is a tectonic crack party where three plates, the African, Somali, and Arabian, are pulling away from each other. It's like continental Jenga. Except the board is Earth, and the pieces are entire countries. Eventually, a whole new ocean might form there. Earth's DIY project. Insert water here. Holding in sneezes might feel polite, but it's a health disaster waiting to explode, literally. People have ruptured throats, popped blood vessels in their eyes, and even blown holes in their sinuses, all because they didn't want to be the sneezy drama queen in the room. Sneeze like a banshee, or suffer internal combustion. Wearing earbuds all day, every day, not only gives bacteria a cozy hot tub inside your ears, but it can also mess with your hearing permanently. Your ears weren't designed to be tiny nightclubs 24/7. Eventually, you'll be that person yelling, "What?" at microwave beeps and wondering why birds stopped singing. They didn't. You just broke your sound sensors. Cracking your neck obsessively isn't just an edgy TikTok habit, it can cause strokes. Yes, strokes. One wrong twist, and boom, you damage an artery in your neck that feeds your brain. So that satisfying pop could turn into a full-body reboot with a hospital bed and regret-flavored Jell-O. Using your phone while sitting on the toilet may seem like peak multitasking, but it turns the throne into a pressure cooker for your veins. Hello, hemorrhoids. That endless scroll puts unnecessary strain down there, making bathroom time a gateway to bum doom. Put the phone down and let your intestines work in peace. In medieval Europe, sewer systems meant tossing everything, yes, everything into the street. People would yell, "Gardy-loo," before dumping their chamber pots out windows. If you ignored the warning, your morning walk turned into a poop obstacle course. No wonder everyone smelled like fermented tragedy wrapped in a damp sock. In Japan's Edo period, people literally bought and sold poop. Farmers paid for human waste to fertilize crops, and households earned extra cash through, bowel donations. So, if you had good digestion, you had a side hustle. Today it's crypto. Back then it was turd trading economics. In 1982, a squirrel in Canada chewed through a power line and blacked out the entire Toronto Stock Exchange. Yes, one fluffy-tailed rodent turned capitalism off like it was unplugging a toaster. Millions of dollars were lost because one squirrel woke up and chose financial anarchy with its teeth. That's rodent-level grid sabotage excellence. Psychologists say humans can only maintain about 150 meaningful relationships at a time. Anything more, and your brain starts assigning people the same status as decorative throw pillows. Vaguely familiar, but ultimately useless. So if you forget your old friend's birthday, but remember your dog's horoscope, blame Dunbar's number, not your cold, tiny heart. In Indonesia's Toraja community, the dead don't stay dead. Families keep corpses at home for months, sometimes years, dressing them, chatting with them, and feeding them like extremely quiet roommates. Then they throw a massive funeral party. Bonus, every few years they dig up the body for a fresh outfit. Death, but make it fashionably undead. In Tibet, they practice sky burials, where monks chop up the body and offer it to vultures. The idea is to let nature reclaim the body. It's kind of poetic until you realize a guy is literally out there slicing grandpa like it's vulture buffet night. Somewhere, a bird is licking its beak in appreciation. In Denmark, there's a grave sharing trend where people rent graves for 10 to 20 years like it's Airbnb for the afterlife. Once the lease is up, if no one renews, your bones get evicted and dumped in a communal pit, so basically, die poor and you're getting the skeleton version of couch surfing. In Madagascar, they have a tradition called Famadihana, the turning of the bones. Every few years, families dig up ancestors, dance with the corpses, rewrap them in new shrouds, and party. Imagine pulling great-grandma out of the grave and giving her a boogie break. It's like Weekend at Bernie's, but with real ancestral vibes. In the Philippines, some tribes bury their dead in hollowed-out tree trunks while still alive, or extremely close to it. The idea? A natural return to nature. It's eco-friendly and existentially terrifying. Somewhere, a guy is sitting in a tree thinking, "This is fine," while everyone else is carving his future coffin. In Mongolia, some herders have been known to sing lullabies to their goats to get them to produce more milk. Yes, full bedtime concerts for goats. Apparently, goats respond to soothing songs with better milk flow, which means goat herding sometimes doubles as an unpaid musical career for very patient men. In Sindh, when a baby gets their first haircut, some people weigh the hair and donate silver or gold of the same weight to charity. Considering babies have the hair mass of a wet cotton ball, it's more symbolic than substantial, unless your kid is born with a mane like a shampoo commercial model. In parts of South India, people break coconuts before important decisions, not just spiritually, but also to read the inside. A good coconut means yes. A rotten one? Nope. It's like Magic 8 Ball meets grocery aisle. Should I marry him? Cracks coconut outlook moldy. Divine intervention, but sponsored by produce. In India, a man mistakenly married the bride's sister after a power outage caused a mix-up during a traditional wedding. The ceremony went on in pitch darkness with face coverings. No one realized the blunder until the lights came back and Grandma nearly fainted at the plot twist. In Germany, Krampus, the horned demon-like creature, comes to punish bad kids. He doesn't leave coal. He leaves pure, unfiltered terror. Parents in Austria and parts of Germany hire Krampus actors to scare their kids straight. It's like Halloween meets Christmas, but with way more parental trauma and less candy. In Japan, Christmas is all about KFC. People line up for hours to get their holiday buckets of fried chicken because somehow it became a thing. In fact, the Japanese even pre-order their Christmas chicken meals months in advance, thinking it's traditional. Some meat lovers obsess so hard, they join raw meat cults, eating uncooked beef, liver, and even chicken, believing it's the secret to superhuman health. Meanwhile, their stomachs are basically on a tightrope between primal enlightenment and explosive food poisoning. It's health food roulette with salmonella as the prize. Chewing ice might seem like a harmless, crunchy habit, but long-term, it turns your teeth into cracked porcelain nightmares. Your molars start looking like they've been in a blender, and dentists everywhere scream into the void. Bonus horror? It's often a sign of iron deficiency, so your snack habit is both destructive and a medical red flag. In 2021, a Bitcoin mining facility in Iran caused rolling blackouts across the country. Yep, chasing fake coins made the real lights go out. Whole neighborhoods went dark, because someone was digitally digging for pixelated gold. The future is now, and it comes with a fried motherboard and zero electricity for grandma's heater. In Venezuela, where fuel used to cost less than a bottle of water, some people smuggled it into neighboring countries by sewing fuel pouches into their clothes. Fuel fashion became a thing. Picture someone walking across the border looking like a Michelin man filled with flammable Capri Suns. One trip, one bonfire risk. Your brain can't tell the difference between emotional pain from a breakup and physical pain, which is why losing a friend can feel like you got whacked in the soul with a frying pan. Basically, ghosting someone triggers the same brain circuits as stubbing your toe while crying on the inside. In 480 BC, the Greek soldier Aristodemus arrived late to the famous Battle of Thermopylae, only to find out that all his fellow Spartans had already died. So, what did he do? He ran into the fray solo, seeking death in battle to avenge his comrades. He got a hero's death, but it's like he showed up to the party hours late and demanded the spotlight. In the Battle of Hastings in the 11th century, Harold Godwinson, the English king, supposedly charged into battle with a single eye after getting an arrow lodged in it. Legend says that the arrow pierced his eye socket, but he kept fighting until he was fatally struck. It's like a battle scene straight out of an action movie, but with extra ocular issues. Friendships are more likely to last if both people hate the same stuff. Not love, not mutual dreams. Nope, mutual rage. Your strongest emotional bonds are formed by aggressively agreeing that pineapple on pizza is a crime or that Karen from HR needs to chill. Hate, apparently, is friendship glue. Rundown is a stew made by boiling fish until it falls apart in coconut milk, forming a thick, oily soup. The name literally means it's run down into mush. Presentation? Looks like someone sneezed into a pot. Taste? Surprisingly fire. It's a hot mess in a bowl that your taste buds will worship. Piri-piri or peri-peri isn't just spicy, it's an exotic flame dance. Popular in African and Portuguese cuisines, this tiny pepper sneaks up on you like a ninja, hitting your taste buds with a zingy, fiery punch that feels like your tongue just went through an emotional roller coaster. If you're not careful, it could start a small rebellion in your mouth. Some meat lovers develop a weird condition called alpha-gal syndrome, an allergy to red meat caused by a tick bite. One day you're chewing steak like a caveman. Next day, your immune system sees beef and goes DEFCON 1. It's nature's ironic revenge. A tick curses you with forced veganism. In Iceland, they celebrate Yule Lads, 13 mischievous trolls who leave gifts in shoes. But here's the twist. The more naughty you are, the more likely you are to get rotten potatoes instead of presents. Imagine waking up to a spud staring at it like, did I do that? Christmas just got way more passive-aggressive. In Catalonia, they celebrate Cagatio, a pooping log. No, seriously. They beat a log with sticks and feed it candy until it poops out small presents. It's like an oddly festive version of a piñata, except the end result is slightly more embarrassing and way more baffling to explain at family dinners. The Indus Valley Civilization around 2500 BCE had better plumbing than 18th century Europe. They built underground drainage with manholes. Meanwhile, Europe was still thinking, a bucket and a prayer was a good waste disposal plan. So the ancient brown water engineers were flexing while future generations just marinated in filth. In Malawi, the Gule Wamkulu dance is performed by masked figures representing everything from animals to demons. The dancers move with spooky, puppet-like jerks, while villagers watch half in awe, half in fear. It's equal parts cultural heritage and horror movie casting call. Some say these masked figures aren't even fully human, just possessed professionals with killer footwork. In the Ivory Coast, the Zaoli dance is performed with lightning-fast footwork that looks like the dancers being electrocuted by joy. The mask worn is said to bring peace and unity, but let's be honest, it also looks like it was designed by a sleep-deprived cartoonist on a sugar rush. The dancer's legs blur into chaos while the face stays freakishly calm. In the Wodabe tribe, men compete in a dance called the Garawal, where they basically become human peacocks. They paint their faces, roll their eyes dramatically, and smile as wide as humanly possible to show off their teeth like walking toothpaste ads. The goal? Seduce women through extreme facial gymnastics and awkward hip swivels. In Russia, a traffic light malfunctioned and began flashing every possible signal at once: red, green, and yellow. creating an anarchist's dream intersection. Drivers simply gave up on traffic laws and started doing synchronized donuts as if the street had transformed into a Mario Kart track. Local officials blamed frozen wiring. Locals blamed vodka. In the US, a man got so fed up with a red light that seemed stuck, he got out of his car and started directing traffic himself. He wore a cape, shouted like a theater major on Red Bull, and tried to outcommand the actual signal. The police showed up thinking he was a flash mob. He insisted he was a hero. No one agreed. In Victorian London, the River Thames basically turned into a sewer, leading to the Great Stink of 1858. The smell was so vile, it made Parliament gag and finally fund a real sewer system. That's right. Laws were passed not by debate, but by the overpowering scent of weaponized poop water. And that's it, folks. Smash that like button like it's cabbage at your enemies, subscribe before your nose floods the place, and ring the bell or Johan the pee boiler's coming for you. Stay weird, stay wonderful, and maybe skip the bear wrestling.
This episode's bringing you the kind of facts that'll make you laugh, cringe, and question everything about sustainability. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride.
So many questions. Why is the world spinning? Why is the moon keeping its orbit? Can rockets fly backwards? The facts you didn't know you needed. The Useless Show.
Your throat's mucus glands are the unsung heroes preventing you from sounding like a garbage disposal every time you breathe. They coat the area so smoothly, you barely notice the chaos they're keeping at bay. Without them, every sip of water would be a throat-based Mortal Kombat round. In Turkey, after the baby is born, new moms are served a bizarre soup called lahusa sherbeti, made with cinnamon, sugar, and red dye. It's served hot, tastes like cough syrup on steroids, and symbolizes health. The custom is rooted in Turkish culture as a way to celebrate the mother's health and the new baby's arrival. Guests pretend to enjoy it while trying not to sweat sugar through their eyeballs. Some desert communities use camel urine as shampoo. Yup, it's believed to have medicinal and hair-strengthening properties. So while your salon sells coconut-infused nonsense, nomads are out here lathering up with eau de camel pee. In 2015, officials in Miami-Dade County raided a backyard slaughterhouse and found animals being brutally killed without proper licenses. The operation was hidden behind a house and had been under investigation. The owners were arrested for animal cruelty. Desert agriculturists plant drought-resistant crops like barley and dates, which laugh in the face of thirst. They basically picked plants that had mastered the "I can survive on almost no water" flex, making farming in deserts less like a desperate gamble and more like a strategic power move. In severe cases of epilepsy, surgeons have performed a procedure called a hemispherectomy, where one entire half of the brain is surgically removed or disabled. Remarkably, patients, especially children, can survive and go into function relatively normally. The remaining hemisphere adapts to take over many functions of the lost side, showcasing the brain's extraordinary ability to rewire itself. Though rare, this drastic surgery can be life-saving when seizures are uncontrollable by other means. One early bug in mailing apps made emails auto-send mid-sentence, even while you were still typing. People ended up sending half-baked rants and professional emails that read, like text messages from a nervous hamster. Some medieval castles had windows so narrow they made you wonder if the architect was afraid of daylight. These slit windows were perfect for archers, but totally useless for views. You could defend your honor and catch zero sunlight. In rare cases, hens have laid shellless eggs that look like someone wrapped an egg in a sad balloon. It feels like nature phoned it in and hit send too early. You pick it up, it wobbles like jelly, and the hen walks away like she dropped an abstract art installation. Indian politician Rahul Gandhi had a close encounter of the footwear kind when a flying shoe barely missed him mid-rally in September 2016. The shoe didn't even come with a political message. It was just tossed with the passion of a man who ran out of tomatoes. Ancient farmers used animal manure not just as fertilizer, but as a moisture-retaining magic potion that kept soil from turning into dry, crumbly dust. This organic mulch acted like a sponge, holding water in place longer than a camel on a water break. An Egyptian veterinarian named Amir Khalil has spent over 40 years rescuing animals, especially dogs, from war zones and disaster areas across the world. From Syria to Gaza, he's led daring missions in some of the most dangerous regions on Earth. He even turned conflict zones into temporary shelters, refusing to let politics or peril stand in the way of compassion. Raoul Wallenberg was a Swedish dude who faked passports so fast during World War II, he practically ran an underground print shop of life. He saved tens of thousands of Jews by out-paperworking the Nazis. While most people flee danger, he walked into it wearing diplomacy like a bulletproof trench coat of sass. In France, they made bike paths out of solar panels. Sounds genius, right? Except it cracked, overheated, and barely powered a toaster. Birds used it as a bathroom, and rain turned it into a slip and slide. Basically, they paved the way to clean energy with a glorified disco floor for pigeons. Sheep have a herd mentality so intense that one Turkish flock followed a single sheep off a cliff. 400 of them yeeted right over the edge like fluffy lemmings. The first 40 died. The rest bounced off the wool pile and survived. It was a literal sheep trampoline of poor decision-making. The Eternal Flame Falls in New York has a little flame burning behind it. Yes, behind falling water. A natural gas leak keeps it lit like a weird fantasy glitch in real life. Imagine a waterfall that's also a campfire. It's basically nature's version of multitasking with fire and hydration. There's a real book called How to Avoid Huge Ships, intended for tiny boats navigating near massive freighters. It became a meme magnet because of its wildly specific title, with people reviewing it like it was advice for avoiding life problems or in-laws, turning maritime safety into stand-up comedy. In Congo, newlyweds aren't allowed to smile during the entire wedding day, not even at the reception. If they do, it's considered immature, so they sit like grumpy statues in photos while everyone else is dancing. Positive thinkers have been shown to experience less physical pain. No, their nerves don't vanish. They just ignore them like a toxic ex. Their brains release more endorphins. They're not calm. They've just bullied their nervous system into submission with sheer optimism. Goldfish were once part of a hilariously bizarre drug detection study where researchers trained them to swim toward meth-laced water. Why? Science was bored and had grant money. Although the fish weren't hired by police, they proved that with enough training, even Nemo could narc on your stash. The narwhal is literally a unicorn of the sea. It has a long spiral tusk sticking out of its head like Poseidon's toothpick. For centuries, people thought it was a hoax. But nope, it's just a whale with bad dental alignment and the aesthetics of a mythical Tumblr blog. In Shiraz, Iran, there's a restaurant built entirely out of salt blocks, not seasoned wood, actual salt. The walls, ceilings, tables, even the stairs are made from it. It's supposed to promote relaxation and purify the air with natural salt ions. Rain? Game over. Your building just dissolved into soup, though thankfully, it's indoors. In 2014, a man named Johann Westhauser led a team into Germany's Riesending cave, then got clobbered by falling rocks about 1,000 meters underground. It took 700 people and 11 days to rescue him. Imagine needing an army because you got too curious in a stone hallway with bad lighting and worse GPS. Oddly enough, some soils post-harvest suddenly become perfect playgrounds for invasive weeds, which swoop in like party crashers, taking over the dance floor, stealing all the leftover nutrients, and making it a nightmare for the next crop's debut. Methane only takes up a fraction of 1% of the atmosphere, but it traps heat over 25 times more effectively than carbon dioxide. It's the overachieving little brother of gases. Rare, quiet, but way too intense. Cows farted out like biological weapons, and Earth just takes it. Some genetically modified potatoes were designed to resist bruising, but ended up so focused on not turning brown, they forgot to retain decent taste or nutrition. It's like they skipped leg day, but trained really hard to survive a minor slap. You get a perfect-looking spud that tastes like wet cardboard wearing makeup. Osteoclasts are the construction site hooligans. They literally break down bone so osteoblasts can build it back prettier. It's a never-ending cycle of destruction and repair, like your skeleton is flipping houses full-time. One tears it down, the other puts up drywall, all in the name of healthy bones. Lysosomes are the cell's janitors, and demolition experts all rolled into one. They break down unwanted junk, but sometimes they get overzealous and eat stuff the cell actually needs, like that one friend who cleans your room by throwing everything away, including your phone charger. Early GPS map makers had a wild time turning satellite chaos into street guides, sometimes using pirate-era sea charts as inspiration. They'd patch together random satellite snaps and citizen reports. which meant a road could suddenly vanish or a park would turn into a parking lot overnight, like a digital treasure hunt gone sideways. Ever heard of pregnancy brain? It's real. Some women get so foggy that they forget why they walked into a room. You'd think growing a whole human would give you superpowers, not make you stare at your keys, wondering if they are edible. Ancient Middle Eastern folks had hygiene routines that would make modern spa-goers raise an eyebrow. They used a mixture of sand, olive oil, and ash as soap, basically turning bath time into a gritty exfoliation adventure that doubled as a minor sandstorm. Public baths in ancient times were the OG social hubs, where people scrubbed away not just dirt, but probably their awkward small talk too. These bathhouses had designated scrubbing slaves, basically the ancient equivalent of personal trainers, but for cleanliness. Coins aren't just currency, they're history in your pocket. The first known coin, minted around 600 BCE in Lydia, was made of electrum, a natural gold-silver mix. Ancient rulers used coins to spread their image across empires like the world's first mass media. Some rare coins today are worth millions, not for spending, but for the stories they carry. The rumen is like a bubbling hot tub for bacteria where fiber gets broken down through microbial fermentation. It's not digestion, it's fermentation on steroids. If a cow had Yelp, the rumen would be the 5-star buffet for microbes who snack on cellulose and party till the cud comes home. In China's Tujia tribe, brides cry for an hour every day for a month before the wedding, followed by the mother and grandma joining in. By week 4, it's a full-blown choir of sobbing women. It's meant to people with a expressed joy, but honestly feels like the world's most emotional flash mob in slow motion. People with a strong positive outlook tend to have stronger immune systems, which means their bodies are better at karate-chopping viruses. It's like happiness turns your lymph nodes into ninjas. Meanwhile, pessimists are out here catching colds from looking at a chilly photo. Dolphins, those underwater divas, have been officially trained by military programs, most notably the U.S. Navy's Marine Mammal Program, to detect underwater mines, recover lost equipment, and identify suspicious objects. But rumor has it, they've also been enlisted to sniff out contraband, including drug-laced torpedoes. So while you're picturing Flipper doing flips, just know he might also be flipping on smugglers with his sonar snitch skills. In the U.S., a press briefing featured then-President Trump suggesting that injecting disinfectant might help cure COVID. The room froze like someone had hit pause on human logic. During World War II, the Allies dropped dummy paratroopers made of cloth and straw over enemy lines. The Germans wasted tons of ammo shooting scarecrows from the sky, while real troops landed elsewhere. Nothing says victory like winning a battle with the military version of a prank store mannequin. In Malaysia, there's a ritual called bersyukur, where the baby's hair is shaved on the 7th day, while relatives take turns cutting a few strands and giving cash. Mother Teresa lived among the poorest in Calcutta, treating maggot-infested wounds with her bare hands like a boss-level nurse in God mode. She had no chill for suffering, and absolutely zero sense of personal space when it came to healing. President Lyndon B. Johnson held meetings while sitting on the toilet. Yes, he turned the Oval Office into the Oval Outhouse. He'd leave the door wide open, chatting politics mid-poop like it was the most natural thing in the world. There was a classic glitch in old emails where attachments appeared attached, but weren't. People became part-time archaeologists digging through sent folders for missing files and emailing the phrase, "Oops, forgot to attach the doc," so often that it might as well have been an Outlook shortcut key. Sapar Murat Niyazov, president of Turkmenistan from 1985 until his death in 2006, basically ran the country like a kid who unlocked God mode in a sandbox game. He banned beards, ballet, and lip-syncing, built a golden statue of himself that rotated to follow the sun. Then, just for kicks, he renamed the months of the calendar after his family. In 1993, a researcher exploring New Mexico's Lechuguilla cave was severely injured after tripping into razor-sharp gypsum crystals. The formations, known for slicing through gear and skin, forced him to crawl out, wounded. In ancient China, builders of the Great Wall used a genius recipe, a mixture of sticky rice soup and lime. This unusual mortar created a chemical bond so strong that parts of the wall still stand after centuries. Turns out the real superglue wasn't synthetic, it was kanji. Grandma's comfort food once held up empires. Sometimes GPS mapping teams relied on user submissions, which means pranksters have sneaked in fake landmarks like Bigfoot Crossing or UFO Landing Zone, confusing drivers who took their GPS a bit too seriously. It's like your navigator suddenly developing a weird sense of humor mid-trip. Some pregnant women experience a condition called pregnancy nose, where their noses swell like cartoon characters after a punch. Thanks to hormone changes and increased blood flow, their face can suddenly host a guest starring schnoz that's wider, redder, and sniffier than ever. The baby's not even out yet, but the nose steals the show. Puberty hits hard for some boys. Hair starts popping up in places that make zero sense. Ears, toes, knuckles, and even weirdly specific patches on the back. Babies can be born without the ability to cry at all. No sound, just dramatic mouth flapping like a goldfish on a deadline. It's usually tied to underdeveloped lungs or vocal cords, but it makes the delivery room feel like a silent film screening. World War I accidentally gave us plastic surgery. Trenches turned faces into puzzles, and a genius named Harold Gillies stepped in, turning war wounds into the birthplace of modern reconstructive surgery. So yes, your nose job owes its roots to battlefield chaos and a desperate need to reassemble exploded mustaches. Japanese cannibal Issei Sagawa murdered and ate a Dutch woman in Paris, was declared insane, then deported to Japan, where he became a celebrity. He wrote books, gave interviews, and lived freely for decades. Somehow being horrifying turned into a career. One infamous pit in Mexico, the Sótano de las Golondrinas, is so deep that birds dive into it like a vertical freeway. With a sheer drop of 370 meters, it's one of the deepest known cave shafts in the Western Hemisphere. Measuring it feels like lowering a string into the Earth's own bottomless elevator shaft. Hoyo Negro, or Black Hole, is a vast underwater cavern in Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, part of a sprawling cave system still being explored. Its depths are so shadowy and immense that divers describe it as bottomless, like an aquatic black hole. It's not just a cave, it's the planet daring you to keep going, then swallowing the light. Some learning sites teach history through dramatic soap opera reenactments. Imagine Cleopatra throwing shade like it's a reality TV reunion, making ancient wars way more extra than your average textbook. To freshen breath, ancient hygiene included chewing on fragrant herbs like mint and myrrh, which doubled as a primitive mouthwash and a way to signal, yes, I'm fancy and I don't smell like a camel. Dental care was rough, though. Think toothpicks made from twigs and a lot of wishful thinking. Water was a precious hygiene commodity, so washing was strategic in ancient the Middle East, mostly done at dawn or dusk to conserve it. Baths were less about soaking and more like speed cleaning before your next camel ride. Cleanliness was a ritual, but don't expect ancient folks to out-shower a modern teenager. Scientists in the UK made bricks out of human pee, not metaphorically. They fermented urine, mixed it with sand, and poof, bio-bricks. Smells aside, it's eco-friendly. In Germany, they invented a biodegradable coffin made of mushroom mycelium. It decomposes you in style, feeding your nutrients to plants. It's like nature's return to sender envelope. You die, then you become a mushroom buffet for worms. Eco-friendly? Yes, but also the weirdest all-you-can-eat plot twist in afterlife history. The Komodo dragon is basically a prehistoric nightmare island lizard that scares the heck out of tourists. It can eat up to 80% of its body weight in one sitting, basically half a cow if it felt like it, and its saliva is a toxic cocktail that slowly weakens victims. Nature's way of saying, welcome to my reptilian mafia. The air guitar championship is another head-scratcher. People pretend to shred guitars with no instruments in sight, rocking out like invisible rock stars. The more dramatic and out of sync their moves, the higher their score. Then there's the annual worm charming event in England, where contestants try to coax worms out of the ground by stomping, dancing, or playing music. The Saiga antelope looks like someone photoshopped a vacuum cleaner onto a goat. Its oversized, droopy nose filters out dust in Central Asia's dry lands, but it could easily be mistaken for an alien sidekick from a 90s sci-fi show. Rabbits are herbivores with a weird flex called coprophagy. Yep, they eat their own poop, but not just any poop. Cecotropes, the soft kind packed with nutrients from partially digested plants. Basically, their digestive system takes 2 tries to get the job done. Zero-waste lifestyle, extreme edition. In 2014, Putin compared Russia to a bear at a press conference, saying the West wanted to defang it. Here's what he said. Sometimes I think maybe the bear should just sit still and not chase piglets through the taiga, but just eat berries and honey. Maybe then they will leave him alone. But no, they won't, because they want to chain him, pull out his teeth and claws. In 2019, a news anchor referenced a real suggestion, one that even reached the White House, that nuking hurricanes could stop them. The meteorologist blinked, probably debating whether to explain basic thermodynamics or just gently slide the joke across the desk. The okapi looks like a mix of a zebra, a giraffe, and a rich person's exotic pet. With a giraffe-like neck and zebra-striped legs, this Congolese oddball was once thought to be imaginary. It's like someone tried to DIY a jungle unicorn using leftover animal parts. At a UK press conference, Boris Johnson hid in a fridge to avoid an interview, a literal fridge. While his staff panicked outside, Boris chilled, literally, like he was playing hide-and-seek with democracy. It turned into the most surreal moment in British media. The tarsier has eyes so huge that it looks like it's seen the end of time. This tiny primate from Southeast Asia clings to trees while looking both adorable and permanently traumatized. It could pass as a mythical forest oracle or a Pokemon that just watched a horror movie marathon. Optimistic people are more likely to get promoted, not because they're better, just because their managers don't feel emotionally drained after meetings. A sunny attitude in the workplace is like bringing donuts to a funeral. It's confusing, suspicious, but weirdly effective in changing the mood. In December 2018 in Ukraine, a journalist Ihor Dmitriev took off his shoe and hurled it at a politician in protest of his sexist comments, one of the very rare times when a shoe became a citizen's voice. Want more satisfying facts like these? Subscribe and become a part of our ever-growing useless family. In 2007, Daniel Radcliffe wore the same jacket, jeans, and hat in public for 6 months to foil paparazzi. By repeating the outfit daily, all photos looked identical and became worthless to tabloids. He called it a tiny victory, laughing at how frustrated the photographers got. The clever tactic made headlines and inspired other celebrities to follow suit. During a heated parliamentary debate in Taiwan on January 19, 2007, lawmaker Wang Shuhui threw a shoe in protest, aiming at the speaker. It missed and hit another lawmaker instead. The dramatic gesture became a symbol of Taiwan's combative political climate and a memorable moment in legislative history. The kakapo from New Zealand is a flightless nocturnal parrot that smells like a musty basement and walks like a drunken penguin. It's so rare and weird, conservationists basically treat it like the royal family of birds, giving it VIP protection from extinction. The Lord Howe Island stick insect was thought extinct until it was rediscovered on a tiny volcanic rock. This bug is so bizarre that it earned the nickname tree lobster because it looks like a crustacean crashed a bug party. Evolution clearly has a wild sense of humor. In Italy, the Abisso del Bifurto is a cave so deep that no one really knows where it ends, but locals joke it's the place where lost socks and forgotten dreams go. Explorers keep trying, but the pitch-black depths just swallow ropes and sanity alike. The Longyu Caves in China are giant underground caverns carved with mind-numbing precision into solid rock. Nobody knows who built them, why, or how they even lit the place. Sacsayhuaman in Peru is a fortress made of massive stone blocks that fit together like a cursed jigsaw puzzle. Rock-on-rock engineering so perfect even lasers blush. Described by Spanish conquistadors in the 16th century, it remains one of the Inca Empire's most mind-bending architectural feats. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey is a temple from 9,600 BCE that was intentionally buried by the people who built it. It's like building a cathedral just to stuff it underground like a prank on the future. Scientists think it's humanity's oldest known temple. Others think it was a prehistoric mic drop. In the Czech Republic, gun ownership is considered a basic right, like owning a blender or having opinions about beer. You can carry concealed weapons with a license, and self-defense is a legally acceptable reason to get one. It's basically the Switzerland of Central Europe, but with more bullets and sausages. Camels are used in desert wrestling matches in places like Turkey, where two massive fluff balls, typically male Tulu camels, stare each other down and try to push the other off balance using their necks. They're often motivated by a female in heat nearby. It's basically the WWE of the animal kingdom, but with more drool. The Seattle Central Library looks sleek outside, but inside the escalators are neon green, like radioactive pickle-colored runways. After harvest, the soil sometimes throws a wild party of weird effects, like suddenly becoming a barren ghost town stripped of all nutrients. Think of it as the soil's version of a post-concert hangover, where every plant's leftovers vanish, leaving it starving and desperate for a recharge. In some bizarre cases of mindless farming, the soil gets so compacted by heavy machinery that it's basically a cement block, making roots struggle like marathon runners stuck in quicksand. The aftermath isn't just tired soil. It's soil with a serious identity crisis about being soft and breathable. In Scotland, friends of the bride and groom cover them in everything gross, rotten eggs, spoiled milk, fish guts, and parade them through the town. It's called blackening, and supposedly prepares them for marital hardships. In rare spinal surgeries, surgeons may wake you up mid-procedure and ask you to talk or move your fingers to make sure they haven't paralyzed you. So you're lying there, half dissected, having a casual chat while they poke your spine like a biological game of operation with horrifying consequences. To transplant a face, surgeons have to literally peel it off the donor's skull like it's a Halloween mask. They then stitch it onto the recipient's head nerve by nerve, muscle by muscle, like reconstructing a Picasso painting. The procedure takes over 20 hours and comes with a side dish of permanent existential weirdness. Sometimes leftover plant roots start to rot underground after the harvest, releasing funky smells and gases that could rival a landfill's worst day. This decay confuses the soil microbes, who either go wild or take a sick day, leaving nutrient cycling in limbo. Ancient desert farmers basically invented the ultimate survival hacks that make you wonder why we don't all live in caves with their wisdom. They dug deep trenches called quanats to sneak water underground from faraway sources, so their crops didn't get sunburned or thirsty while chilling in the scorching heat. A positive mindset can literally reshape your brain's structure over time. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's science's way of saying your thoughts can redecorate your head. Goats can climb vertical cliffs like gravity owes them money. Some are seen hanging on dams and trees like four-legged ninjas in wool socks. They're supposed to be herded, but they herd themselves into situations so stupidly vertical, it makes mountaineers question their career choices. Herding goats is basically herding defiance. In Costa Rica's Cave of Death near Poas volcano, scientists found dangerous levels of carbon dioxide. The gas pools low in the cave, killing small animals like birds. Researchers measured up to 30 kilograms per hour. It's a natural trap. No smell, no warning, just silence and science. The Cold War turned the race to space into a tech-fueled Hunger Games that accidentally gave us GPS. The US military developed satellite navigation to stalk submarines, but now we use it to find taco trucks and avoid X's at the mall. Napoleon's wars made canned food a thing. The French army needed grub that didn't rot during long campaigns, so they started sealing food in jars and later tins. In 1795, during the Napoleonic Wars, Napoleon's government offered a prize of 12,000 francs to anyone who could preserve food reliably and prevent spoilage for the troops. Cattle can recognize faces, human and bovine, meaning if you wrong a cow, she will remember. Herders sometimes wear the same hat or sing the same tune to keep the peace. Mess it up, and you get stared down by a 1,000-pound grudge machine with hooves and emotional memory. Reindeer herding in Siberia means chasing a giant, moving meat and antler train across frozen tundras on skis. Some herders use snowmobiles, others use reindeer to herd reindeer, which feels like asking a toddler to babysit itself. Still, it works, because apparently cold plus chaos equals functional traditions. Ducks can be herded using nothing but a bamboo stick and a rice farmer's sass. In parts of Asia, herders guide thousands of ducks down roads like a feathered tsunami of discipline. Ducks somehow obey, probably out of sheer confusion or fear of missing out on the next rice field rave. Some traditional Japanese tea houses have windows placed low enough that you literally have to crawl to peek out. It's a design choice based on humility, but it also feels like the architect said, "Let's make this cozy," and then added, "Also, let's punish your knees for existing." In old Scandinavian stave churches, windows were placed awkwardly high and small to keep evil spirits out. Yes, they legit believed ghosts couldn't duck. So natural light took the L, but at least the architectural paranoia made sure your haunted draft problem stayed minimal. There's a waterfall in Antarctica that looks like someone bled out on an iceberg. It's called Blood Falls, and no, it's not possessed, just full of iron-rich water from an underground lake that rusts on contact with air. In Hawaii, there's a waterfall that sometimes flows up. Yes, defying gravity like it's auditioning for a Marvel movie. The wind near Waipuhia Falls can get so strong, it blasts the water back into the sky. It's not a waterfall, it's a water backflip, and nature's way of saying physics is optional. In India, there's a seasonal waterfall called the reverse waterfall in Nanagat, where water gets hurled upward instead of falling. There's one recorded case of a hen laying a massive egg with 3 yolks inside. That's not an egg, it's a protein-packed grenade. Scientists were baffled. The hen looked mildly offended, and breakfast turned into a full cardio session from the cholesterol shock. That egg was basically a muscle-building side quest. Some old farmers even created clever shading systems with palm fronds or woven mats to give their plants a break from the brutal sun. These shade hacks were like natural air conditioners for crops, reducing evaporation and turning desert farming from an impossible nightmare into a doable hustle. There's a competition in Finland where people race walking backwards. Yes, running away from progress literally becomes a sport. The world record for the largest backwards race was set in Mumbai in June 2017, with 1,007 participants completing 150 meters in reverse. In Japan, there's a bizarre noodle slurping contest where slurping loudly and messily is the goal. Contestants compete to suck down bowls of noodles with the most impressive, obnoxious sound. Bees have been trained to detect drugs using their little twitchy tongues. Scientists discovered they could smell narcotics and stick out their tongues when they detected the scent, like tiny flying drug-sniffing lizards with ADHD. Imagine airport security with bees in tiny vests doing their weird little dance of justice. In Jainism, hardcore monks sweep the ground in front of them with a feather broom to avoid accidentally stepping on bugs. Walking becomes a live-action obstacle course of guilt avoidance. In Zoroastrianism, dead bodies can't be buried or cremated. Instead, they're placed on towers of silence to be eaten by vultures. Yes, heavenly Uber Eats for birds. It's all about not polluting fire, earth, or water, but also a great way to give your funeral a Game of Thrones energy boost. Ferrets, already chaotic by nature, were trained by some customs officers to sniff out drugs in tight spaces, like inside pipes or suitcases. Ferrets locating cocaine sounds like a Disney villain's side gig, but apparently, their chaotic zoomies made them ideal for surprise narc-sniffing missions in weird corners. Dolphins sleep with only half their brain at a time, like paranoid insomniacs who won't trust the ocean for 5 minutes. One hemisphere naps while the other keeps an eye out for sharks or late-night fish parties. It's the aquatic version of power napping, with one eye open and a fin on the snooze button. Scientists once tried to map the entire human genome, which felt like deciphering a 1 billion-letter-long password written in the most confusing code imaginable. Imagine unlocking your phone, but the password keeps changing every time you blink. That's genome sequencing for you, a never-ending nerd marathon. DNA can survive some crazy stuff like being frozen for thousands of years or trapped in ancient bugs in amber. It's basically the ultimate survivalist, outlasting your average smartphone battery by 1,000,000 years, and proving that even your genes have better stamina than your morning coffee buzz. The mitochondria are basically your cell's own little power plant, but they moonlight as a control freak, deciding when to start or stop energy production like a boss with serious trust issues. It's the diva of organelles, demanding attention or shutting down the party entirely. When GPS satellites had signal issues, cartographers had to get creative, blending outdated maps with live data, resulting in some roads looking like they traveled through a time warp. 1 minute you're in 2025, the next you're stuck in 1987 with pixelated highways and rotary phones. Albatrosses can sleep while flying. Yes, mid-air. They literally take micro-naps during long flights over the ocean, like overworked pilots with no co-pilot. Their brain logs out for seconds at a time, then boots back up, hoping they haven't crashed into a cloud. It's autopilot, but bird-brained. Red blood cells gave up their nucleus just to be better at carrying oxygen, basically quitting all internal thinking to become Uber drivers for air. They can't reproduce, can't repair themselves, and literally exist just to huff gas and die. It's like hiring someone to only breathe and then firing them after 120 days. A weird side effect of having little humans inside you? Increased shoe size. Pregnancy can flatten the arch of the foot, making your feet longer, sometimes permanently. Imagine carrying a baby and realizing your favorite boots now fit like medieval torture devices. It's like your skeleton went shopping without asking first. During pregnancy, the body can produce more melanin, resulting in odd pigmentation like the linea nigra, a dark stripe running down the belly. Formatting bugs made emails look like medieval scrolls written by a drunk wizard. Fonts would change mid-word, colors would turn neon, and random emojis would appear like your laptop was haunted by a chaotic intern. Puberty hits the male brain like a confused software update. Mood swings, random aggression, and the sudden urge to arm wrestle your own shadow are common. You're not angry at your family. You're just mad your legs grew 2 inches overnight and your pants forgot to keep up. In your guts, mucus glands stop your intestines from digesting themselves. They create a slippery shield between your stomach acid and your stomach lining. Without them, your insides would be a cannibal potluck where your organs RSVP to eat each other. Thanks to mucus, your colon isn't at war with your lunch. Neurons are drama queens of the cellular world. They refuse to regenerate and make a huge deal every time they're damaged. Meanwhile, glial cells do all the support work, like cleaning, feeding, and keeping the drama in check. It's like neurons are the celebrities, and glial cells are the exhausted personal assistants with zero fame and all the chores. Liver cells multitask so hard that they could replace an entire office. They detox blood, produce bile, store sugar, and make proteins. Basically the overworked mom of your body. Meanwhile, muscle cells just sit there contracting like one-trick gym bros, flexing all day and acting like it's cardio. Some GMO tomatoes were designed to survive shipping, stacking, and possible asteroid impacts, but had the nutritional depth of a stale crouton. Farmers called them tough boys, but consumers called them taste grenades. They survived the journey but died in the flavor department like a soldier who forgot his sword. Horses, unlike cows, only have one stomach but a super long intestine with a massive cecum. That thing is a fermentation tank that could put breweries to shame. They digest slowly, like a philosophical chew on grass, where everything is considered, evaluated, and then maybe passed along. It's the zen of digestion. Mitochondrial DNA is your cell's ancient ancestors' leftover genetic material, passed down from your mom like a family heirloom, but way less fancy than grandma's china set. It's the DNA equivalent of an old mixtape you didn't ask for, but somehow still ended up owning forever. Peroxisomes are the cell's hazardous waste disposal units, detoxing nasty stuff like free radicals, but sometimes going overboard and damaging nearby cell parts. Think of them as the cell's overenthusiastic bodyguards who protect you but occasionally punch innocent bystanders. In South Korea, instead of pastel balloons and diaper cakes, families host a ritual called Baek-il on the baby's 100th day. Guests bring rice cakes, seaweed soup, and prayers. The baby wears a tiny hanbok and looks confused, while adults argue over which rice ball predicts its future. Dr. Patch Adams dressed as a clown to treat patients because nothing says healing like chaotic red noses and honking shoes. He believed laughter cures more than pills ever could. President Andrew Jackson had a parrot that had to be removed from his funeral for cursing too much. Apparently, the bird picked up all of Jackson's profanity and unleashed it on the mourners like a winged sailor. Nothing says, "Honor thy master," like shouting obscenities at his last goodbye. In parts of Yemen, ancient people built entire skyscrapers out of mud brick, some over 10 stories tall. These Manhattan of the desert towers were eco-friendly, cool inside, and still housing families centuries later. Sloths are herbivores too, and their digestion is so slow it can take a whole month to process a single leaf. Their multi-chambered stomach is like a sleepy DMV. Everything moves at the pace of molasses. If digestion were a race, sloths would be the guy who starts stretching after everyone else finishes. The Golgi apparatus works like a chaotic post office inside your cell, packaging proteins and sending them off with zero GPS. Sometimes packages end up in the wrong place, causing tiny cellular mix-ups that feel like a delivery guy who can't read maps but still expects a tip. In May 2025, deputies in Yellow Creek Township, Ohio, rolled up on a house party blasting music loud enough to rattle windows. Neighbors weren't impressed, but the guests were just getting started. No arrests, no wild twists, just a firm warning, a quieter playlist, and a narrowly avoided ticket. In June 2025, Austin-based startup Hero Technologies launched myco-digestible diapers. Each includes plastic-degrading fungi. Once discarded, the fungi break down the diaper's plastic components into soil-like material within about 9 months. There's a stone circle in Nabta Playa, Egypt, that predates Stonehenge by 1,000 years and may have been used as an astronomical calendar. But here's the kicker. It was built by people in a desert before GPS or math apps existed. A bottomless pit named Krubera in Georgia is basically Earth's way of saying nope to humans, dropping into darkness so deep even light bounces off like a bad joke. Being over 2,000 meters deep, these holes swallow sound, gear, and hope. Like nature's ultimate "you shall not pass" challenge for thrill seekers and spelunkers. Kim Jong-il of North Korea reportedly traveled with his own train loaded with live lobsters and top chefs. He was terrified of flying, so he rode around the country in 5-star seafood on wheels luxury. Meanwhile, citizens were starving. He basically invented the dictator version of a bougie food truck. In ancient India, stepwells were engineered marvels that harvested rainwater while doubling as hangout spots. Massive stone staircases led down into underground pools that collected water year-round. Today's water-starved cities are realizing that Instagrammable stone water pits might have been the best hydro-tech humans ever invented. Pregnancy can actually turn you into a human radiator. Women sometimes develop insane levels of heat because their body increases blood volume and metabolism. Some feel like portable toasters, sweating bullets in December, glaring at the thermostat like it owes them rent. Muntadar al-Zaidi, an Iraqi journalist, once channeled his inner ninja and hurled his shoes at President George W. Bush during a press conference in Iraq. Bush ducked like he was dodging dodgeballs at summer camp, giving us the most athletic move of his presidency. A Dutch company created a literal cow toilet to catch urine before it hits the ground. Why? Cow pee releases ammonia. So now cows get trained to pee in urinals like beefy toddlers in potty training. It's weirdly effective and possibly the most awkward farmer-cow relationship since barnyard karaoke night. The Galapagos Islands are home to marine iguanas that look like dragon rejects who decided to take a swim. They're the only lizards that can actually dive underwater and feast on seaweed, proving that evolution sometimes just throws logic out the window with style. In Texas, they have a cow chip throwing contest where people fling dried cow poop like frisbees for distance and accuracy. It's a stinky mix of farm chores and Olympic spirit, proving humans will literally compete with anything, no matter how gross or ridiculous. In Texas, IT consultant Brett Sanders paid his $212 speeding fine in Frisco with over 22,000 pennies dropped into buckets labeled extortion payment. Newborns have kneecaps made of cartilage rather than hard bone. This softer structure helps during childbirth and allows for flexibility as they grow. The cartilage gradually ossifies, turning into bone, typically between ages 2 and 6. So while babies can crawl and kick, their kneecaps aren't fully formed until well into toddlerhood. The Civil War gave birth to prosthetic limb innovation. So many limbs were flying off the battlefield that doctors had to up their game. Soon, wooden peg legs turned into functional artificial limbs. Soldiers came back looking like steampunk cyborgs before it was cool, all thanks to excessive cannonball enthusiasm. In 1974, Rodney Alcala won a televised dating show while in the middle of a serial killing spree. The producers had no clue The Charming Bachelor was a walking horror film. He murdered at least 8 women and still went on TV like he was pitching shampoo. The Boesmansgat sinkhole in South Africa is a terrifying underwater abyss that divers call the bottomless pit, though it's only about 803 meters deep. Still, it's so dark and cold that every dive feels like swimming into a freezer set to existential dread. Oxygen tanks don't stand a chance. In the old times, people avoided public toilets by using chamber pots, which were basically portable toilet trophies carried indoors, sometimes emptied into the street. Sanitation was a balancing act between stay clean and don't get too close to the city gutters, which were basically open-air microbial theme parks. The Coral Castle in Florida was built single-handedly by Edward Leeds Calnan, a small man with a broken heart. Using homemade tools and no witnesses, he moved and carved massive limestone blocks. Leeds Calnan claimed he built the castle as a monument to his lost love, fueling the enduring idea of heartbreak bending the limits of human effort. There's a microscopic creature called the tardigrade that can survive in boiling water, freezing temperatures, the vacuum of space, and even radiation strong enough to turn your DNA into alphabet soup. It basically laughs in the face of death and naps for years until it's time to rise like a moist raisin. The endoplasmic reticulum is the cell's multitasking factory, folding proteins with the grace of an origami master, except when it messes up, causing a protein pileup that looks like a cellular laundry disaster. It's the stressed-out worker who never gets a break but somehow keeps things running. Dubai's upcoming Rosemont Hotel and Residences plans to feature a 7,000-square-meter indoor rainforest, complete with artificial rain, waterfalls, and tropical plants. In 2019, a Russian man named Dmitry Shagin chose to live as a goat for 3 days, using prosthetic hooves and living among actual goats in a field. His mission? Explore free will versus biology. He ended up eating grass, headbutting fences, and questioning every life decision while bleeding at strangers. Freedom never looked so weird. At just 15 years old, American swimmer Katie Ledecky described her first Olympic Games as feeling zero pressure during her debut in London, 2012. She said that calmness allowed her to perform confidently, and she left with a gold medal. In Brazil, the mom throws her own baby shower, called chá de bebê, and gives gifts to the guests instead of the other way around. That's right, she's 8 months pregnant, hosting a party, and handing out goodie bags like a swollen Oprah. Some Orthodox Jews follow a rule called Eruv, which allows carrying items on the Sabbath by creating an invisible boundary around a neighborhood, sometimes with fishing wire. Without it, pushing a stroller counts as work. French President François Mitterrand once threw a farewell dinner for himself, where he ate an endangered bird called the ortolan, a delicacy so illegal that diners have to hide under napkins to eat it. Nothing says legacy like eating something banned while dressed like a shameful vampire. Thailand's famous Tham Luang Cave trapped an entire soccer team in 2018 due to rising floodwaters. Divers faced zero visibility, shifting currents, and tight squeezes. The rescue was so intense that it turned into a global Netflix special. That cave turned into the most stressful field trip ever, complete with surprise international fame. The ancient Egyptians used passive cooling with clever ventilation shafts and thick mud brick walls. Their homes stayed cooler than a millennial's fridge in summer. No AC, just architectural sorcery. In Siberia, woolly mammoths have been found remarkably preserved in ice. One, a baby mammoth nicknamed Lyuba, discovered in 2007, had intact skin, organs, taste buds, and even her last meal in her stomach after over 40,000 years. Frozen in icy mud, she remains one of the best preserved specimens ever found. Bananas can shatter like glass when frozen. One tap and it goes full fruit grenade, exploding with the drama of a soap opera villain exiting a scene. A company in the Netherlands is building houses out of mushrooms, not cute little Smurf huts, massive fungal fortresses made of mycelium. They're eco-friendly, but if it rains too long, you're basically living inside a soggy garden gnome's dream. One bad spore, and you might wake up part of the walls. Cows have a digestive system so complex that it deserves a reality show. They've got 4 stomach compartments: rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum, each with a job so specific it makes human digestion look like a lazy river. Step 1, eat grass. Step 2, barf it up, chew again. It's basically a food boomerang party in their guts. Newborns often have underdeveloped immune systems, so a basic, light breeze could declare war. That's why they're bubble-wrapped in sterilized everything, and people get glared at for breathing near them. Basically, their immune system shows up like a confused intern on the first day with no idea what bacteria even are. In a Buddhist tradition named Pindapada, monks must beg for food every morning, not because they're poor, but because it humbles them. They walk silently through cities like orange-robed ninjas of modesty, collecting rice from strangers. It's the only situation where ghosting your own hunger is considered a spiritual flex. The reply all function in early mailing systems turned into a workplace demolition tool thanks to a glitch that forced every reply to go to everyone. One university once had 40,000 students stuck in a loop because one person replied, "Unsubscribe." The rest followed. Servers cried. Immune cells are a bunch of aggressive freelancers. Macrophages eat everything that looks shady, like body bouncers on a protein binge, while T cells interrogate every cell like paranoid detectives. B cells just hang out making antibodies like a weird biological Etsy shop. Hit that subscribe button before your immune system starts a podcast about its drama. Golden rice was engineered to save lives with extra vitamin A, but nature had other plans. It needed to be eaten in truckloads to make a real difference, so technically, it could help if you eat a bowl big enough to drown in. Ozone is that dramatic friend you either love or hate, depending on where it hangs out. High up in the stratosphere, lifesaver; near the ground, health hazard. It's the gas version of a superhero with a split personality, saving us from UV rays while choking us on the freeway. In Pakistan, ex-PM Nawaz Sharif received an airborne shoe to the chest while attending a religious event. Security panicked, Sharif looked confused, and the assailant was probably arrested under the no footwear diplomacy. It was the world's least effective political mic drop, unless shoes are your chosen language of protest. In extreme cases, soil can develop bizarre cracks and fissures after harvest, turning into a cracked, desert-like landscape overnight. This makes it impossible for water to soak in properly, basically turning the soil into a trapdoor that flushes away precious moisture before plants can even say hello. People with a positive mindset literally heal faster after surgery. It's like optimism turns your white blood cells into motivational speakers yelling, "You got this," at your scar tissue. Surgeons have noted that patients who smile more tend to leave the hospital sooner, proving once again that vibes might just be medicinal. Pigeons, already known for pooping on everything sacred, were trained to peck when they saw images of illegal drugs. So not only were they sky rats, but now they were judgmental sky rats trained to shame your cocaine habits mid-flight. They didn't snitch, but they certainly judged. In Australia, Wallaman Falls looks like water is leaking out of a mountain's emotional breakdown. The top has barely a trickle, but halfway down it unleashes a thunderous roar like it just remembered it had responsibilities. People call it majestic, but it's giving forgot my homework then overshared vibes. One book titled Goblin Proofing One's Chicken Coop actually exists and won an award. It's a legit guide on how to keep fairies, goblins, and trolls out of your yard. Somewhere between lawn care and fantasy fanfic, it reads like a survival guide for people who think Tolkien was a prophet. Fridtjof Nansen, Arctic explorer turned humanitarian, invented the Nansen passport for stateless refugees. He went from chasing polar bears to chasing bureaucrats and made legal papers cooler than ice. Basically, he became the bouncer of compassion, letting people into countries with the ID card version of a bear hug. In Korea, after the wedding, the groom has his feet beaten with a stick or a dead fish by his groomsmen. It's done to test his strength and prepare him for married life. Because nothing says, "you're ready for love," like getting slapped with a mackerel while your friends cheer you on. Some preemies forget how to breathe, literally. Their nervous system is so undercooked that their brain hits pause on breathing like someone leaned on the spacebar. That's why NICU incubators come with alarms, because their lungs need constant supervision like reckless interns at an oxygen factory. The schedule send feature in initial mailing systems used to operate like a bored raccoon with a caffeine addiction. You'd set it for 9 a.m., but it'd send at 3 past 12 a.m. instead, or next Tuesday. In ancient Roman bathhouses, windows were placed high up near the ceiling, not for privacy, but to make steam swirl dramatically in the light like some theatrical spa. It turned hygiene into a gladiator-style fog show, and the vibe was less clean and more haunted sauna powered by dramatic sunlight. Some teenage boys wake up with shoulders so wide that it looks like they're preparing for a life in professional door framing. Meanwhile, their coordination drops to toddler level, causing them to knock over glasses, trip on air, and bump into furniture like they're being controlled by laggy Wi-Fi. People farming in deserts used crazy smart stone walls to trap blowing sand and dust, creating mini sand-free zones where seeds could grow without feeling like they signed up for a desert sandstorm reality show. It's like a natural sand bunker that actually helps plants instead of ruining your beach day. Mughal palaces often had jharokas, balcony windows designed for royal women to spy on street processions without being seen. It was like ancient Instagram stalking, but with better architecture. If you learned something today and also questioned reality at least twice, congratulations. You're now qualified to join a reverse waterfall race while farming with manure and clown shoes. Smash that like button, subscribe for more nature's nonsense, and remember, gravity's just a suggestion, and so is normalcy.